Hey traders, TG Watkins here. It is October 18th when I'm recording this. Hope you guys are doing well. It has been a crazy week, hasn't it? We've got the market that went down just straight down last Friday. Then we got a bit of a bounce back. Then we got a rollover. And then we had more news, Thursday night into Friday. Yeah, this market has been all over the place. Meanwhile, we are seeing the VIX go straight up and then start to collapse again on Friday. So what does all this mean? Let's dive into that today. I've got a couple things I want to be showing you. Also, I did just put out a webinar. Thursday. There we go, Thursday. I've been traveling, so everything's been kind of a blur. But Thursday, and if you guys want to check it out, it's Trade with Conviction, even when the market feels chaotic. We got some really good responses actually from the webinar. People enjoyed it. I've been giving you guys samplings of what the Moxie room looks like, what the kind of trades we've been taking, and you can see here that we've been doing pretty well. I can show you that since the tariff tantrum lows, my account, I had one trade in here in specific that went 2,061% gain in 30 days. That was at the exact April lows due to the tariff tantrums. That turned $38,000 into $683,000. And then in another account, I was able to turn $140,000 into $725,000. That's 420% in 6 months. And this one was a mixture of stocks and options in this particular account. So it has been a really good market. However, we are starting to see some things faltering. So we're going to dive into that, kind of show you what I'm seeing and if this is going to turn into something a little bit more serious. On that note, if you guys are interested in joining the Moxie Room, now is the best time. We actually have some specials and coupons running for the month of October. These will expire as of October 30th or 31st. And so if you come over to simplytrading.com/MIM for Moxie Indicator Mastery, this is where you can get it. These are our price breakdowns. Most people, we've been looking at the reports coming in, most people are actually buying the pro version. It's great. I appreciate the support. I'm glad you guys are willing to sign up for a annual subscription, and in through here with that, not only are you going to get a good deal, you're also going to get the couple of classes that I have, and they are particularly long-term Moxie setups because this market still bull market, and we do have things making new all-time highs. Yes, we got some turbulence right here, but we have a lot of people who enjoy just trading stocks, and they want to make sure that they catch the entire wave of what we are in this bull market. 0DT SPX trade. This is the whole class that I made about how I actually trade 0DT. And no joke, guys, me teaching myself how to actually trade 0DT options actually made me a better swing trader, especially when it came to options. And these are the kind of things that I'm going to be showing you in this class. Anyone who has taken it has had pretty big thumbs up and said really good things about it. And then this is also what I show and teach inside of the Moxie room. So if you guys take this class and then you come into the Moxie room, then you'll start to actually hit the ground running and know what we're doing as far as these day trades. And then if you guys do not have the Moxie Indicator, this is how you can pick it up for cheap. And if you guys already have it, we've got some coupon codes for you too, so don't worry, just talk to our customer support and they'll take care of you. All right, so let's dive into everything today because we've got some action that we need to kind of go over and discuss. Remember, since this is on YouTube, to like and subscribe. That way you guys keep getting notifications about when these videos come out, and this is for educational purposes only. All right, the VIX. We know that the VIX has been going absolutely crazy, and the strange thing, I even reached out and we've been talking to a few of my other professional trading friends, and most of them have said yes, they have never seen this before, where basically the VIX was straight up like this, and yet the SPX is doing this. It was very odd to see that volatility actually was pretty much front running the market and the SPX. Now, it's understandable that we saw it coming basically in through here. Okay, everything, if you guys want to go back and look at my last week video, I think it was the kind of the Halloween special with kind of the bloody market update thing on there. We saw this thing coming. You could even see the Moxie price trigger fired a day before the market went down. And then after that, we put on a put credit spread and sold it here. We made 65% off of that in about a day and a half, so that worked out really nicely. And from there, we've actually just been kind of just managing things. The rest of the market did start coming down, so we've been taking profits and reducing risk and actually getting out of a couple trades that didn't work. And so it's been management, because you guys tell me, which way do we think this market's going to go? Because in a couple ways, this looks like either price could fall off of the daily 50 because it is bear flagging into the underside of a downtrending hourly 50 with the Moxie indicator below zero, or somehow maybe enough damage is done and enough weak hands have been shaken out that price is actually going to hold the daily 50, and we're holding a level here, and we could actually see the market start to move up through here. Let me then dive into a couple different things, because what we're going to be looking at is through here. So looking at the VIX, the overnight action, risk on, getting whacked, and let's dive into what those kind of things mean. So if we come over and look at the VIX, you can see in through here, get the computer, I'm on my laptop, so it takes a little bit, but you can see in through here, this was the kind of buildup that we saw. Here's the Moxie price trigger, price was over the moving averages, like this thing was ready to go, and this is why when Friday happened we weren't too surprised, and then we got that big move. The interesting thing was that this actually stayed propped up and then continued to rip higher into, what is it, I think Thursday, and then Friday, we kind of got this topping pattern, and then you could see the VIX came all the way back down here. And then, you know, you look at the VIX here, you're thinking, oh my gosh, that must have been a huge down move in the market, because, you know, VIX up, market down. But then you go back and you actually look at the market, the SPY, and it didn't really go down. And so you're kind of scratching your head thinking, well, what's going on? Well, I think part of the answer here is if you actually turn on the extended hours, or if you can look at the futures. And what we've seen in through here is that Thursday into Friday this week, that there was you know, the news of the banks and stuff. There was a lot of fear in the banking area. We're going to talk about that too. And you could see here that everything started to roll over pretty hard. And if you put the cursor on that, you can see where the S&P actually went in the overnight, down here, which was all the way down here. It on the surface made a new low. I know that last Friday it went even lower, but you could say for this week, it made actually new lows. And then the crazy thing is it got bought back up. Now, a lot of people are attributing to that to Trump coming out and starting to talk softer about the China tariffs and, you know, just everything getting walked back a little bit. Whether that is the case or not, or people kind of realize that maybe the banking situation wasn't as bad as people thought, because that was another situation that people were saying is, oh my gosh, all these defaults and the banks are in trouble and the loans. But then you dive a little bit deeper and actually it's not that bad. And that's kind of what I've been seeing too. So we might have a couple things that are happening. And in both situations, we had a huge down move overnight, got bought back up. Another huge down move overnight, got bought back up. And this might be helping to put in a low, because the futures keep getting bought back up, the weekends are getting shaken out, and that the market just isn't going down yet. So I'm going to be a little bit deference to this week about that. Okay, I do have the hedge on in case, you know, something, you know, who knows what's going to be happening out there with politics and everything else. But just in case this market does want to get weak, I do have a hedge on that. If this market does decide to roll over, I'm going to be okay with this. We've also taken some risk off, so we're ready for that. However, if the market next week decides to prove that actually it's holding its low and wants to start moving back up, all we have to do is go shopping again, because this week we actually saw a lot of tickers really get hammered and come down, and they could be getting into some viable situations. So let's start looking into that. Let's talk about the risk on getting whacked. That's going to be some of the names that I'm going to be showing you guys in a little bit. And yeah, the Moxie webinar, and then the sale ends October 30th or 31st, one of those 2 days, basically the end of the month. Okay, and then so that's the SPY, and you can see that the NASDAQ is basically the same configuration. Is this thing going to just bull flag and we actually go higher, or is this a bear flag and it's just biding its time until price actually starts to roll off? We don't quite know yet, and we're not going to, I think, until next week, because this Friday was OPEX, and of course they're just going to kind of hold this thing where they want it. So we might see some fireworks next week, whether it's to the upside or to the downside. All right, let's take this. I'm going to slide this over here, and let's take a look at the IWM. And this was another interesting thing over the week, is that the IWM, basically, you know, everybody came in and said, oh yeah, Friday down, yeah, let's buy the dip. And so many people bought the dip on Friday, and you could see that the small caps absolutely loved it. But then, just as equally, the small caps got hammered. And you can see they came right back to basically where they were. So everything's just kind of chopping around in neutral. And maybe this is the other answer of maybe the market doesn't go down, and maybe the market doesn't really go up, and maybe it actually needs to rest and digest this, because there's just so much going on right now. So be prepared to kind of maybe be neutral. Look at individual tickers. Wait till they actually start flashing some buy signals, because right now, all I saw on Friday were most things were actually coming down, which was amazing that the market actually didn't go down more than what it did. And so I'm seeing that I think probably one of the best course of actions, just lay low for a little bit, let things shape up. If the market wants to keep coming down, fine. However, if things start to rebuild to the upside, then we should see that coming, and we'll be ready for it. If we come over to the SMH, This is the semiconductor index and ETF. I guess I can turn this overnight off and we come back here and kind of mixed signals. Honestly, this is mixed signals because you look here, I have price over the 50, Moxie indicator below 0. That's what I call an inverse trampoline move. Price should not be over the 50 if the Moxie indicator is below 0. And so normally I'd look at this and say, wow, well, price should probably come down. Even if it goes sideways, it's not going to be ready to go up right here. So I could see the semiconductors actually coming down a little bit. Now, is this going to be a big move to the downside? Or is it going to be more of a range move to where price did come down a few different times and yet didn't really go anywhere? That's the big question. That's the $64,000 question. We don't really know. And that's why I'm taking a little bit more of a neutral stance next week until we get some more clarity. We can look at the FNGS. This is the FANG stock ETF. And this is probably what's helping to keep the market and the indices actually up, is because yes, they did come down, and yes, there was a big move last Friday in through here, but since then you can see they're also still kind of holding up, kind of coming into the daily 50, kind of coming into, I can draw that a little bit better, coming into prior support. They might kind of just be in a holding pattern. And until we can actually prove that this market wants to go lower, I think we need to be a little bit cautious on both the short side and the long side. I don't see that this thing's ready to go higher, but I'm not entirely sure that it's ready to go lower. So I think we need to be open-minded next week and simply let the market tell us which way it wants to go when we can actually start seeing those clues present themselves. We can also look at ARKK. This is the ARK ETF. A little bit more on the risk on side of things, and you can see that yes, it's been coming down a little bit, but not too bad. We had our big Friday move down, then we had a bit of a bounce, and we did come down here. This is what I'm talking about. You can see on Friday that a lot of these small caps did come down, and so you can see that it came down. But look, we are now back here at kind of a double bottom and kind of into a previous range. This could certainly go lower, but it doesn't look terrible. And if it did want to come lower, maybe it comes into, I don't know, maybe the daily 50 support. We're not entirely sure. It could kind of do the same thing before here, to where maybe it's not really ready to go up, but it doesn't really want to roll over and die. And so maybe we're going to be in kind of this hangout area until we finish up October. Maybe October just needs to kind of digest, and then we can look for stronger moves into the end of the year. Okay, then let's take a look at breadth. And if we come over here, we have been seeing fewer and fewer names participating in this. And again, fewer and fewer names participating in this. And even last Friday, you could see we had a huge rollover to the downside. And in one sense, because the market did go down so much and a lot of these names got washed out, maybe this is a flush out low. We are starting to see some lower highs, or higher lows come in through here. And I just don't know. It's a little too early to know if this is actually in or if this is just a bounce and actually this comes down a little bit lower. It's just too early to say. I do not have concrete evidence in through here. It's just something to watch. Is 30% and is 40% going to be low enough for the market to actually mark a bottom and start moving back up? But in the meantime, we can see that clearly these things have been working lower, and so it has been either you have to be a stock picker or you kind of need to be careful this week, which is what I'm going to be showing you guys next, that a lot of things actually were coming down. So we got the VIX. I'll show you guys the UVIX, because again, this thing was just going through the roof before the market even came down, which was wild to see about how this was actually happening, to see that this thing went up when basically the market really wasn't going down. These things actually became disconnected, and it is a rare thing to see. I don't know if I've ever seen it disconnect this much, but the fact that the UVX has come down, at least I think buys us some time for now. So if this starts to trend back up, okay, we've got to be careful. But otherwise, I'm kind of wondering if this has built in the kind of the whole fear situation, and if this can subside, then this might be one of our gauges to help tell us that maybe the market is not quite going to go down, or at least not yet. All right, so let's talk about the banks. If we look at XLF, these are the financial ETF, and you can see they have not been happy for a little while. And this is a big component of the S&P and of the market. And you could generally see there's your Moxie price trigger, and you can see that the Moxie indicator has been below 0 for several weeks. And we can see even though price has been bouncing, it's been in a downtrend because the hourly 50 has been in a downtrend. We even have the daily chart with the daily Moxie price trigger to the downside. These have been moving lower, so it has been challenging for, I guess, the rest of the market, or that for the rest of the market to go up, or that this was going to start weighing on the market. These divergences can't last forever, And so they either need to start getting into line or change. And right now it seems like the market is starting to get in line with these things. And now what we're trying to see is, are these going to bottom soon? And if this bottoms, then that helps the market go up. Otherwise, if these continue to be weak, then maybe they're going to continue pulling the market down a bit. And if we look at something like KRE, really bad. The regional banks, I mean, that's really where a lot of the fear was over the last few days. I think from what I've read and what I understand out there, I think actually the action here is overblown. I think it seems that people read into some reports about credit and defaults and whatever, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is really bad. But I think it was limited to, I forget, Zion and what other bank, and it actually said it was because of some fraud situation. So it seems to be isolated and not based on necessarily reality, because this was more like a fraud situation. Like they got scammed, and so that's why their numbers weren't looking good. And this doesn't look like a systemic situation. So this might be a little bit overblown. And that's why it would be interesting to see what actually happens next week, and if these things can repair themselves and actually stop going down and start retrending to the upside, that might also give us a little bit more insight into the direction of the market next week. Okay, then if you guys, I'll bring this back over here so you can see kind of some of the other names we're going to be going through. This is to show you just a smattering of what kind of action has been out there. If you guys are trading, and you've probably experienced this yourself, but I'm going to go through this and show you what I've been seeing and how we mitigated some of our positions. So if we come over, let's take a look at RCAT first. Now, RCAT, I showed this in my webinar. We made some really good gains on this. I still have longer term positions, but there was a trade that we put on about here, and we took it off here for 200 and 300% gain. And then because it looked like the market was ready to go, and again, buy the dip, here is that Friday dip. I said, okay, well, if the market's going to buy the dip, let's go with it. So we put on another option series here. Things were looking pretty good, but then as of I think Thursday or Friday, it must have been Thursday, we took that position off because I was like, oh, things are not looking good. Even the quantum stocks are getting hit. You got the risk on names are getting hit. RCAT, I like it longer term, but it looks like it's sensitive to a move down here. I could totally see it coming down. So we exited that position for a 20 or 30% loss. Not bad. It was options. So 20 or 30% on an option, on short-dated options, is actually a pretty good save. So we got out of that thing right here, and boom, there it is down here. Now this thing is kind of coming back into support. So again, I do not have an entry on this thing. You can see it is still down. It is still underneath these moving averages. There is no signal on the Moxie indicator yet. And so, it's too early to buy anything, or too early to even confirm that the low is in. But hey, at least I'm looking at these, and number one, we saved the position, and number two, this might actually end up being a good low print buy, but it's too early to confirm that. We can look at DDOG, and you can see this name was also looking really nice over the last couple weeks. Part of how everybody was making some good money out there. A great trade in through here and top it out here right into resistance. And then look also, you can see this thing started to come down, and then whack on Thursday, Friday, how it came down pretty hard. But is this thing really too bad? Maybe not, because if you look here, it's really just kind of coming back down to potential support. It's not in a downtrend. This is merely a pullback so far. These could end up being opportunities. So, let's not panic too much like this. This is what I'm trying to tell you guys. I'm trying to guide you through this. As long as you didn't go buy the top here and then get crunched on a short-dated option, you should be fine. I'm actually going to be looking at this long sometime in the near future, but it's too early right now. We still need to let the market demonstrate that it's ready to go up at some point. We can look at CoreWeave. While CoreWeave has been actually looking pretty good and very strong compared to, say, the rest of the market, it hasn't been ready. Notice how price wanted to keep going up, and notice how the Moxie indicator kept going down. That was the thing that was kind of warning me that I wasn't sure that this was the right trade or the right opportunity for this name. And so we haven't taken any trades, and that has been the guidance that I've been giving to the Moxie traders. And so actually, if this can come down a little bit or go sideways into support, then I could be interested in it, but not right now. And that is the kind of pressure that we're seeing the market in general is putting on a lot of individual names. Now, GDX, I'm sure everybody is looking at gold and the gold miners. I actually put on a short position last Friday or something when the market was coming down. I told the Moxie traders not to load the boat on this. I said it could very well bounce, and it did. So we put a short position on here on GDX, and yeah, boy, did that thing bounce. This is kind of where experience comes into play, because I definitely know that the younger, less experienced me would have probably thrown in the towel right here, only to have this thing finally roll over the very next day. But I trusted my signals. I kind of knew what was going on with the market, and I said, I don't think this is a legitimate move. I don't think this is going to stay up here. So I wrote it out for a little bit, and you can see here it came all the way back down. And now what I'm looking for is actually a continuation to the downside that I will be adding to my short position. So again, experience told me to hang on to this for just a little bit longer, and so far it looks like I was proven on Friday. It came down nice and hard. And then if we come over here and look at IonQ, this is just another example. RGTI, QBTS, the quantum stocks. We made 300 and I don't know, 350 or 340, 370%, I forget which one, right in through there. We took an entry here, we exited there. Definitely left some on the table, but I also knew that when price started going up like this and you see the Moxie indicator down like this, that's your negative divergence. That was starting to tell me that momentum was not working in this name and it was getting too high. And that's where I started watching this. I said, guys, you need to be careful in here. This doesn't look good. And even though RGTI kept going up, I was like, I think these things are going vertical. They're getting too stretched. Be careful. And you can see right there, there's your Moxie price trigger. There's the break of the 50. And you can see here the Moxie indicator just really slammed lower. And boy, look how IonQ is coming back down hard. So that's why I'm saying, in one way, it's a little bit amazing to see that the SPX didn't really budge this week, even though you see names like this coming down pretty hard. Now, of course, these are small tickers. They are not the FANG stocks, and so that is part of why they haven't really affected the market too much. We can also look at things like Joby. And you can see in through here, it was looking great over the last couple weeks. Right in here, huge, huge move. But basically, it got extended right into a double top. And you know what? Maybe these things would have kept going if the market was supportive, but you can see here the market was not. We got a little bit of a bounce back here after Friday, buy the dip situation. But this Friday, you can see that the market said, nope, we're not ready to keep going higher. So Thursday, Friday, they really sold into Joby. As long as you didn't buy this at the wrong place or something, there is still the argument that it could be a bull flag. Maybe it just needs to kind of chop sideways for a while before it goes higher. And that's part of what I'm saying. Just be a little bit careful out there. Wait for the market to give you these signs and clues. But right now, there's just nothing to the upside. There are no signals, no signs for the upside. We can also see areas like ABAT. This is partly the battery situation. This is partly and it was a little bit partly of the rare earth mineral conversation. This thing exploded when the whole, Trump, China, rare earth mineral debacle happened this week, and yeah, it exploded. But you can see here, it was already just absolutely vertical. That's where it gets risky, guys. You can't chase these unless you're an absolutely short-term trader. So this thing went up into the nosebleed section, and then just as quickly as it went up, it came down just as hard. And this is kind of the thing where I always tell traders, you know what? Ride these trains until the wheels fall off, but you got to make sure you're taking profits on the way up, or you're going to get burned when these things actually gap down like this. And so this was another situation that we were starting to see some of the froth come out of this market, and these things got sold into super hard. So, and then we could even see SMR, maybe a little bit on the speculative side, but still we need a lot of power, we need a lot of energy out there. The whole uranium nuclear story has still been strong. I do still think that there's going to be a future, but this had a really good setup. You can see the Moxie indicator was looking awesome. It started to hold those moving averages, and then pop. Nice big move. I'm like, great, looks awesome. But it also got extended and kind of into a double top. And again, these things probably would have been fine if the market was still supportive of it, but the market changed. Something out there changed. The market said, no, we're going to start coming down. And you could see these things started to get hammered too. And now that keeps asking my question of, are these things back into support? Are we good? And are we going to go higher again and maybe the market goes higher? Or is this just the beginning of something and these are going to get weaker and the market actually gets weaker too? So this is why I'm telling you guys, just maybe lay low a little bit this coming week. Unless you're going to be kind of day trading, actively trading these things. Because the trend, we don't have a clear trend, and that is what we need to be very, very aware of. Now, NVTS. For those of you in Simpler, or maybe you kind of watch some of our social medias out there, it was my turn to do the weekly watch list. I made it last Sunday, and they put it out on Monday, and NVTS was one of the ones that I put out, and I think it was right here, whatever Monday was, that I put this thing out here, and boom, nice big move to the upside. So maybe some of you were able to catch on this. It was a pretty darn quick move. I didn't expect it to move this much, but there you go. Now, just like I said with ABAT, and just the same thing I said with DDOG and RCAT, this thing is very extended, and the market's kind of coming down a little bit. So I would certainly be careful. I would not be buying this thing up here. Maybe you could consider shorting it. I don't really know yet. It hasn't quite turned yet, but I would certainly be careful on the long side because, boy, this thing is up in just thin air, and there is certainly opportunity for it to come down if this market continues to stay a little bit weaker. And then another one, Grab. This is a ticker that I do like. We have it long term. And we've been watching this one too, kind of being like, okay, we had a really, really nice breakout, oh, I don't know, maybe a month ago. Super breakout. Look at the volume that came into this thing. And it looked like it wanted to go higher, but double top. Couldn't quite do it, could it? And now that the market's coming down, and look where it went. Right back to the daily 50, right back to the previous high. So I've actually been looking at this as an opportunity to add to this name at some point, but it's too early. You can see here, price is still down. I don't just buy the dips and buy the lows like this. I actually wait for them to turn up and give me signals, okay? Because they could always keep going lower. That's the whole thing about, catching a falling knife. We don't want to be catching a falling knife. So we're going to have to wait and see when the next opportunity is. And I think just for kind of the whole theme about what I'm telling you guys is it's just a little too early to be saying, oh yeah, this is the low and we're going to go higher. These things could go lower and we just need to be aware of that. Now, I actually forgot to mention one more thing. If we look at the cryptos, Bitcoin, Ethereum, here's IBIT. It too has been also just absolutely falling off a cliff. There are a couple reasons. I think a lot of people bought the breakout here to new all-time highs on Bitcoin, and then they got levered up. I'm hearing that the deleveraging and the washout and everything was one of the biggest ever since the FTX debacle. I think a lot of people went in just full bore leverage because they bought the breakout and then they got smashed, and a lot of people just got wiped out and are probably not in too much of a hurry to buy right back in. And you could just see how this thing has just gone absolutely straight down. Now, the only bullish case that I could be talking about this, in addition to the market, is Bitcoin and Ethereum look super overdone to the downside. Very, very stretched. If I were short, I'd be cashing in because this was a vertical move to the downside. And it looks to me like it's probably getting exhausted or stretched to the downside. I'd actually start looking for a move to the upside. Can I confirm anything yet? No, it's still just too early. Maybe Monday. Monday maybe it sets up. But from this moment right here, I cannot actually confirm anything. I'm just being aware that it's looking a little bit overdone to the downside, and these could move up, which tie in to the idea that maybe the market goes up because it is unlikely that Bitcoin or Ethereum or the crypto is going to go up if the market's going to go down. And so this might help be a little bit of an indication that maybe the market's actually going to go up next week because crypto is oversold. Just a little bit of a thesis and something to kind of keep in mind out there for your particular trading. Okay, guys, thanks again. And remember, simplertrading.com/MIM for Moxie Indicator Mastery. We are running those specials, and I'd love to see you guys come into the room and see if I can help you out with trading. All right, guys, take care.